following up on a lead given to me by Leon, has brought me here.
Greetings, I'm Solidus-Skully, and welcome back to the Resident Evil Code Veronica commentary, and now it's time we finally get to play as someone new. This is Chris Redfield, who they decide to reveal in all his glory, which again, kinda makes sense, because it's been, god, like a fair few years since you actually got to play as him in a game. Again, provided whether or not you count the battle mode of the Resident Evil 2 Dreamcast edition. But yeah, now he's back in sexy HD, standard definition, Dreamcast graphics. And yeah, don't bother going down to retrieve that bag of ammunition or anything. You know, it could have been important, or unless it just contained fresh clothes for Chris, in which case...
Don't worry, Claire. I'm coming to save you.
Dun 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 dun. But yeah, as you can see, Chris got Leon's message, he's now back on Rockford Island, and this is pretty much the part of the game that tends to drag for a lot of people, and I am willing to admit is one of the few weak spots of Code Veronica's design, but not by much, since again, if you know what you're doing, excuse me, you can pretty much clear this mode in, well, no time flat, but at the same time, I'll get into the tedium after the cutscene.
I didn't expect to find another living person left on this island. Who are you?
I came here looking for a certain girl.
A girl?
Have you seen anyone named Claire Redfield?
Did you just say... Claire?
You know who she is, don't you?
Don't worry about her. I helped her escape. Several planes took off from this island not long ago. While I can't say for certain, she was probably on one of them.
I see. I guess my sister owes you. Thanks for helping.
Everyone's gone. I may be the only other person left. Go on. Follow your sister and get off this island.
Oh no, we must save him! Although, well, actually that's kind of a bit of a discrepancy here, because, in all of my playthroughs of Code Veronica, I've never actually let Rodrigo die, so again, I don't know if, exactly the mechanics of how it works here. I mean, he is eaten by the, well, let's just call it what it is here, the Gravedigger, and, well, again, you either have the choice to save him and get, you know, the lighter back, which, of course, gives you access to the submachine guns that you could see in that little passage there, or instead, you could basically just say fuck it and leave him, which I guess the only other workaround for it would be, again, if you couldn't be asked giving him the hemostatic medicine, just put the lighter in the item box, and or possibly put both that and the lockpick in the item box, so Chris can pretty much have all that he needs, provided that you want to do it that way. I don't know. I mean, it's kind of in your best interest to save Rodrigo anyway, not just for, you know, getting this little monkey off your back, but in turn also saving a legitimately likable character. But again, as you can probably tell with the fact that he was bleeding beforehand, and well, I mean, if this worm doesn't finish him off, then he certainly is going to be at this point with all the stomach acids trying to digest him in this annelid frame. But yeah, basically, if you have any powerful weapons that you didn't use as Claire, go to town on it. Use the AK-47, because while it is, you know, a bit more powerful than usual weaponry, not quite as useful anywhere else, so just use it at your discretion. You can, I think, another option is that you might have the possibility to leave him, but I've never tried it, for reasons that I'll talk about in a bit.
Hold on!
Don't give up!
Looks like I can meet my family again. Here. Take this.
What?
She gave this to me as a token of thanks for saving her. I won't need it anymore. Take it.
Rodrigo. No! Ooh, lighter. But, yeah. He ain't breathing anymore. Because Jesus doesn't live here anymore. Oh, a new survivor. Welcome to the Traveler's Inn, Chris. My name is... Tavern Woman. I'm here to make your stay most pleasurable. Please, be sure to stay here. Your name is Redfield? Could you be related to that Claire girl who was here before? We'll make sure to make your stay extra comfy. She was a wonderful customer. I really have no idea what the fuck I'm doing this voice, but on more important matters, submachine guns. You got to play with him a bit as Steve, and now we get to test him out for good as Chris. Which, does... Actually, no, you wouldn't have the chance to put him in the item box anyway. You don't get any ammunition for the submachine guns, sadly, or at least, not to my knowledge. I mean, there could be some dummied out stuff, kind of similar to the spark shot rounds in Resident Evil 2, so again, I really don't know. But anyway, save them up, because again, they are still pretty powerful weapons, and, well, again, they're gonna come in handy for the encounters to come. Perhaps even the final one. But, yeah, onto the Grave Digger boss fight, which is just the name that I'm calling it. Again, there is an elevator here, you can summon the lift down, but the thing of it is, I don't know if it's a situation akin to Resident Evil 2 where it's pretty much suspended for boss fight reasons, or again, if you can activate it, and just, you know, run the timer down, leave, and pretty much just abandon Rodrigo to die. Again, I've never left Rodrigo without, at least not without trying to save him, so, I don't know. I mean, honestly, I think it's in your best interest to save him anyway, just... if only for the submachine guns, and the fact that it kind of fades to black here does kind of indicate that, yeah, there was a bit of a waiting period, and you can escape if you so choose, but, I don't know. I've never done it, and I just can't bring myself to do it because I'm a fucking sap. I'm just too fucking nice. But, yeah, since we're back on Rockford Island, the level design is different, obviously. I mean, the island has been bombed to shit, and, basically, the only areas you're going to be accessing is a bit of the underground passages and, well, the military training facility. At least to a little bit more of a smaller extent than what you saw before. You're not going back to the concentration camp, you're not going back to the island mainland or the doctor's office with the torture chamber and the Iron Maiden. Excellent! So again, like, it's not necessarily in terms of scope that a lot of people have a problem with Chris's section of Rockford Island. It's more so, well, again, I guess I could probably get into this now, because it's pretty much a case of... well, it's kind of twofold, really. It's a case of plot per distance traveled, which, to kind of sum that up, it's pretty much, again, the amount of gameplay you're doing versus the amount of story context you tend to get in games like this. So again, like, I mean, if you're going for, like, a large stretch of time without any contextual sign of progression, or if, you know, if you're not seeing any sort of, you know, progression in terms of, like, world traversal or anything, again, that's a bit of an issue. And again, another issue is really how originally designed the world is. Now, we'll talk a little bit more about plot when we actually get to it, or at least what little there is, but, in Chris's case here, like, a lot of what this boils down to is mainly the fact that, well, again, in cases like this, there is a very specific way in which you're meant to achieve your objectives. You're gonna find out what they are in a little bit, but, again, unlike Claire, where, again, even if you knew what you were doing, or at least had a fair idea of how to complete things in the most efficient manner possible, you could pretty much cover the majority of Rockford Island, and, again, while there is some backtracking there was almost usually something for you to do when you were backtracking. Like, I mean, you wouldn't usually go back to the, you know, the prison camp if you weren't going to deliver either the hemostatic medicine, or if you weren't going to be exploring a new area when you got the, emblem. Also, hello, spiders. So, like, I mean, at least when you had the emblem, you know, you explored the doctor's office, you got to explore the, you know, the little underground caverns, you know, with the Iron Maiden, or the, crematorium, so... again, you were still technically finding new areas and exploring things in a new light, whereas here, you only really get access to one new area, but even in that case, there is a very specific way you have to go, very specific puzzles for you to complete, and it feels, by and large, a lot less interesting to explore. And as such, I don't think that, well, it stimulates a lot of players' imaginations, really, so... Again, Chris's Rockford Island, while it isn't quite as large as I remember it being, at least on a first playthrough, it is a little bit... It basically just sort of suffers from a bit of repetition and the fact that, well, again, there's really not a lot of plot per distance traveled, and you are going to be seeing that as we progress, because the only thing that you learn here is, well, one bit of information, basically, our Princess Claire is in another castle, and, well, Chris pretty much just has to work and get over there. I mean, really, it's about as exciting as fish and chips by the seaside. Not really an apt metaphor, but, again, it is what it is, and it could have been condensed far more than it is, and I'm honest to God racking my brains to try and figure out why exactly Capcom designed it this way. I suppose part of it would be to perhaps maybe justify playing as Chris for a longer stretch of time than perhaps you would have otherwise, but... I don't know, like, I mean, if you're playing as a specific character, don't you want the things that they do, however brief, to be worthwhile? Like, I mean, whenever you got to play as, you know, Sherry Birkin or Rebecca Chambers in previous games, or even Carlos from Resident Evil 3, again, short as those sections were, you at least were doing new things and got to see a different side of the level that you either wouldn't have gotten to yet, or that, you know, these characters had specific abilities that the main cast wouldn't otherwise be able to do, so... Again, it gave them interesting gameplay possibilities, even if by small means, so... yeah. Oh, by the way, put that Luger in the item box and you unlock Steve in the battle mode. That's pretty much all she wrote, really. I initially thought that you had to use that item as a puzzle in my first playthrough, but never figured out where, but I was like, oh, you unlock Steve in the battle mode. Silly me. Again, like, I mean, I could potentially put up with, like, the very rigidly structured environments and the plot per distance traveled issued if this part of the game was, you know, relatively similar to what you're seeing right now. But this does come with a very specific caveat in a certain character's return that really does kind of bug me to a certain degree. And, again, while it does make sense for the game to kind of jack up the difficulty and, you know, increase the amount of enemies that you are going to be facing, this does it in a very arbitrary way. And not quite to the same extent as, like, the third island of Resident Evil 4, where it literally feels like they ran out of fucking ideas, but... well, they're getting there. But, again, we'll see as we go on. In fact, we're actually going to be seeing not too far in the distant future, as we continue to uncover the secrets of this island, or at least what little there is to discover. I mean, the only thing we really have to discover is basically, well, our means of uncovering a way to get off this island, and of course in turn, well, a certain character that we're going to be meeting quite soon. But again, our main goal at this point is pretty much both getting an emblem, and of course, well, okay, besides getting the key here, looking at the file. Ah yes, the anti-decay alloy of Clement E and Clement A. I know it's meant to be Greek alphabet, but fuck it. I don't give a shit. But again, it's basically mix Clement A into Clement Alpha or Clement Epsilon. Again, pour it over the emblem, get a similar halberd weapon that, you know, you saw Alfred use to access the hangar. Bada bing, we do the thing, and Chris, of course, gets a means of traveling to Antarctica. Excited yet? And again, of course, more reading, more bastardizing of the fucking training facility, and enjoy the cutscene. See you then.
There was a friendly but naive king who wed a very nasty queen. The king
Who
was
is that?
loved, but the queen was feared. Till
Alexia?
one day
No.
strolling,
She's already fully awake.
An arrow pierced the kind king's heart. He lost his life.
Chris, you're here?
His lady love.
Chris, I'm sending some company to keep you entertained. Consider this a small welcoming gift from me. Enjoy.
Oh dear, we are in trouble, aren't we? And there is actually something else I want to bring up, because I don't know if I might be misremembering or it might have come from a different game, but I swear to God in Code Veronica X, like, Wesker's introduction was handled a bit differently, because I swear to God I remember him initially saying in his first scene, rather than, "Alexia, she's awake," he instead said something more, like, suave and sophisticated in the sense of, like when he first looks at Chris, he's like, "Oh, Chris, oh, little fishy, well, I better set a trap for you. Ha 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 ha!" I'd love to laugh. But, again, I might be misremembering. Then again, I did bring up beforehand that, Code Veronica X does include a lot more cutscenes with Wesker, and again, as I mentioned before, I consider that version of the game to be Wesker's fanfiction game, by proxy of the fact that it pretty much only exists to make him look more badass and sophisticated than he really is. And, kind of at odds with that, because I kind of prefer how he's handled here, in the sense that, again, he's villainous, and as you will see right at the end of the part here, he is powerful. But at the same time, he's not the overly powered fanfiction badass he would eventually become by the likes of, you know, the Ada side mission in Resident Evil 4, and, you know, the Matrix complete saturation god that he is in Resident Evil 5. I don't know. It's, again, you're going to be seeing more examples of that as we go on in the game, when, you know, you get to see Wesker get his comeuppance, that again is sadly lost in Code Veronica X, but it is replaced with an equally interesting scene, which, I'm tempted to do a bonus video on, but that might come, months down the line when I feel the need to play Code Veronica again, and give Code Veronica X another run-through, and maybe, like, post a few cutscene differences, or additional scenes that you didn't see in the Dreamcast version. Whatevers. But again, there is also another detail to point out, and that would of course be those little camera devices. And again, you might be wondering what exactly is so bad about that, and again, they don't appear for a while now, but I'll save that round for the time being. I'll keep it tight into my chest. And again, also, just to make this a little bit more arbitrary, yes, the emblem that we need to, you know, use in tandem with the Clement mixture is lost to the depths of, well, the depths. So we gotta go off and rescue that, and basically that means going around a very rigidly structured environment, which of course means going down a sewer manhole, that includes going down a specific environment, and going this way, then that way, then this way, never getting around the island, and again, this is where the tedium sinks in. Again, there is a very specific way to go. You also get the shotgun around this point, which is also pretty nice, but at the same time, it requires you to do things in a very specific order, and again, most Resident Evil games are structured like this, except the difference is, but compared to the likes of pretty much every game preceding this, and even in Code Veronica itself with Claire's scenario, it feels like they were more deliberately designed to be, again, structured in a way where you had to complete specific objectives, but it was open enough so that you could at least set the puzzle pieces in place ahead of time. Again, another example I could use would actually be the whole gas mask finagle. Again, like, I mean, if you wanted to speed up your gameplay process, you know, after Steve, had a little stare at Claire's buttocks, again, if you got the gas mask beforehand using the whole BOW, transport system, again, like, I mean, you could pretty much save yourself a bit of time that way. Chris's scenario here doesn't really give you that luxury, so as a result, again, your gameplay experience is lengthened, and again, this really doesn't help on a first playthrough, where your first impressions of this segment would be, dear God, I just want this to end already, which, again, isn't really a good feeling to have when a game starts to feel like work, which, kind of makes it a bit of an antithesis, because people use games to escape their workaday life, and when games feel like work, well, what the fuck? I mean, I might as well just fight in a zombie apocalypse anyway, and collect the items, and do the thing, and become a member of STARS, and I got a shotgun, scream, Chris smoking a cigarette, whatever. But anyway, this is pretty much one of the places where you have to get one part of the Clement mixture. There is actually a bit of a caveat in which you have to finagle with the temperature to get the Clement mixture just right, so that Goldilocks can eat it, have a sleep in the Three Bears bed, and, well, I'm sure there was a story that Alfred and Alexia Ashford just found to be the bee's knees when they were children, given the goddamn sadists that they are. And again, to kind of save you a bit of hassle if you happen to be watching this commentary and wondering just what temperature to set the Clement mixture at, it's pretty much... God, I haven't remembered this right, otherwise it'll show up on screen, in which case, fuck it, I win either way, but basically it's 12.8, which sounds like a radio station. You're listening to Clement Mixture on 97.8, dude. And there you go. By the way, you gotta, like, actively select the Celsius button for some reason. Why? I have no idea. But again, if you fail to do this, like, you don't really get penalized for it. It's pretty much just a message saying, nothing happened, so do it again, dumbass. It is also important, actually, that you, well, pretty much get it done at this point, because, doing so otherwise, and you get a very surprising encounter out of that very obviously destroyed vent. Although, then again, not that it really saves you much trouble anyway, because you're pretty much in for a bit of a surprise anyway. Again, if that earlier reptilian thing was not an indication anyway. But yeah, make sure that you get the Clement mixture before picking up the doorknob, because otherwise, this happens and you get another special surprise. This encounter is pretty much mandatory, but let that be an omen of things to come. And also a bit of a homage to Resident Evil 1 here, actually. Albeit a little bit less silly, since it doesn't quite show these creatures opening doors politely like they did in the original game. Also, I swear to God, that sounds like a fucking, like, news theme. Like, this is the news at 6, with Chris Redfield. Tonight's story is, a hunter making its grand return after many years, and of course Chris is about to be lunchy-munchy for a hunter. More at 11. And, yeah, oh, another one decides to join the fray, because I guess its brother was just thinking it was the bee's knees to join in. But again, you don't have to fight them, so, pretty much just run away at your discretion, and you should be cool, dude. So, yeah, you pretty much just save yourself a bit of hassle by not, you know, not getting the doorknob immediately. But, however, that does also kind of trigger an event, because once the hunters show up, yeah. Again, there are pretty much two variants of hunters in this version. There's pretty much the hunters classic as you knew and love them from Resident Evil. Again, they can pretty much, they're fast, they jump swipe you, and they can cause a fair bit of damage, but again, if you've got a shotgun on you, or have some of the more powerful weapons in the game, you can pretty much take them no problem, or again, if you've pretty much completed all the steps you need to complete a puzzle, yeah, you can pretty much just run by them no problem. So, again, there's no real issue there, relatively speaking. Where the issue does come up is with their cousins, and I can't quite remember the name. I'm sure they have some sort of, like, Greek lettering shit to them, but, I'm pretty much just gonna call them the Redback Hunters. You'll be able to tell what they are because they have a little bit more veiny and have more red coloration to them. But, yeah, they actually have the ability to inflict poison status, and again, like the Hunters, as you know and love them, they're fast, swift, and, well, can cause some significant damage, and it's generally a bit of a pain in the ass. But, again, that wouldn't be annoying in and of itself. What is annoying, however, is not gonna show up here, but I will point it out when we get to it. Also, how the fuck did that miss? On almost all of my playthroughs, when the zombies get too close, they always find the bowgun bolts missing for some utterly bizarre fucking reason. I have no idea why. Like, it's point-blank range. Chris, you're better than that. Remember when you challenged Barry to a shootout at the local gunnery range? Now your aim's like a stormtrooper. You're washed up. Maybe you should take up weightlifting or steroids instead. Well, I mean, I suppose it is kind of apropos, because, like, I mean, and again, maybe it is games like Resident Evil 5 and, like, 5, 6, 7, and 8. But again, it's so weird seeing Chris so, like, thin. Like, he looks incomplete now. I blame future games for this, because he looks so lively. And there we go. We find the doorknob. Actually, if the door didn't have a knob to begin with, wouldn't you be able to open it, or like maybe try and finagle your hand through to rip it off its hinges or something? Like, whatever. The point is, we got a toy tank, so now Chris can finally relive his boyhood dreams of, playing with a tank. If the Ayatollah cannot have it, no one can. But, yeah, I don't think it shows up. Oh, actually, it might show up in this second, actually. But again, we'll just have to wait and see, or rather you shall see. But we'll figure it out. Oh, there it is. Yeah, those cameras weren't just for show, they actually show up in these levels. And given the fact that these hallways are very, again, narrow and self-contained, yeah, guess what you're going to be doing throughout most of the game. You're going to be getting caught, and you want to know what happens when you get caught? They summon a hunter, apropos of nothing. I really dislike this because, again, like, aside from feeling a bit too video gamey, it pretty much just punishes the player for... well, again, you could say it punishes the player for not being patient, but by that same token, it feels like, oh, we're midway through the game, and what can we do to make it harder? Fuck it, throw hunters at them, ugh, that's enough game designing for one day, time for dinner. I don't know, it just feels a little bit too slack for me, and I don't know. It's a resource drain is all it is, and again, one could argue that, oh, well, again, do you waste your resources on the hunter, or do you just let it drain your herbs for taking damage? I mean, you do have a split second, but again, the cameras activate and deactivate so fast that, again, there's no real mechanic akin to the, the whole hiding mechanic from Metal Gear Solid where you can, narrowly go under the camera's field of view, so again, there's no real adequate way to avoid it other than just picking your moments, and to be honest, it's just kind of bullshit, really. And of course, shock of all shocks, another thing to arbitrarily lengthen our stay in the Rockford Island. We gotta basically get the Navy, Air Force, and Army-proof SEALs back into this area so we can unlock a passage that we can then use to unlock another area. And of course, bada bing, we do the thing, get the emblem, use the Clement mixture, and get out of here. There is a reason why this part is 30 minutes long, and it's because I want to get all this wrapped up shortly. Also, a weird bit of information where Alfred apparently had a lot of the people local to this place build a bridge, and he was like, yes, but because I'm just utterly evil. Yeah, basically I'm just gonna kill everybody, and nobody will touch Alexia, except for me and my penis. So, yeah. Pretty fucked up. And again, like, I mean, I wouldn't really have as much of a problem with this, and I don't think most people would have had a problem with this area of the game if it wasn't for the fact that you had to do all these elements and actions in such a rigid fashion. Like, I mean, again, if you had the level of exploration or at least shortcuts to quickly cut across the island to where you need to go, I think a lot more people would have been at least a little bit more understandable, and again, the more skilled players would have been able to clear it much quicker than perhaps, what you would be able to on a first playthrough, but regardless, we're pretty much just stuck with what we got, and it makes this area disappointing above all else, so I really have nothing else to say. But in the meantime, however, since we have progressed with enough plot, we are going to be deigned with a cutscene where, well, let's just say Chris is going to be meeting an old friend, or should I say, an enemy. So on that note, I am Solidus-Skully, keep it new metal, and next time on the Resident Evil Code Veronica commentary, well, let's just say that things are going to be picking up. Somewhat. By which I mean we're finishing this. Catch you dudes and dudettes next time, and I'll see you later.
Long time no see, Chris.
Wesker? He's still alive? What are you doing here?
I came for Alexia.
Who?
An organization hired me to capture her.
Wait. You attacked the island. And my sister.
You have no idea how much I hate you. You destroyed my plans. So now I've sold my soul to a new organization. Now, die. Here's a little secret, Chris. I figured out that your sister is now in the Antarctic with Alexia. It's too bad you won't be seeing her again.